Did you know that many people fail the MET exam because they don't know how to answer the question number 4 in the speaking section? Yeah, this is one of the most difficult questions to answer. It is to talk about advantages and disadvantages. But many people fail, lose time, or just don't know how to answer this question. So in this video, I will show you how to structure your answer and how to get the score you need just by getting a good response. The question about advantages and disadvantages is always the question number 4 in the exam. In this question, you need to talk for 1 minute and a half. The objective of this question is that you talk about the advantages and disadvantages of a given question. For example, they can ask you, what are the advantages and disadvantages of living abroad? Or probably they are going to ask you, talk about the pros and cons of a given topic. Talk about the pros and cons of playing video games. Talk about the pros and cons of cooking at home. Obviously, the questions that I'm giving you over here are like quite easy, are short, but normally they make it like much more complicated. They make long questions with long context, but always the objective is the same, to talk about advantages and disadvantages. Let's talk a little bit about the strategy. Well, the first step to follow is to give context. If the question is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of video games? My context would be something like, well, there are different opinions about video games. Some people might think that they are positive, while others might think the contrary. In this way, I'm just giving a context. Why is important to give a context? Because I don't have time to plan. In the MET exam, there is no time for planning. So with this introduction, I am giving myself a little time to think about those advantages and those disadvantages. The step number 2 is to talk about advantages or disadvantages, one of them. So for example, I'm going to talk about the advantages. I'm going to start saying something like, well, I want to start talking about the advantages it has to play video games. The first advantage that I find is that people can react quickly. In video games, usually you need the ability to react quickly and observe everything that is around. That could be one of the advantages. If I want to continue with another one, obviously I add another advantage. The step number 3 is to talk about the disadvantages. So I'm going to say, however, there are some people who think that there are disadvantages, and obviously everything has disadvantages. The first disadvantage that I find about playing video games is that it could be addictive. Many people get addicted to playing video games, which is obviously negative. Secondly, it needs supervision. People need to be, or adults need to be dependent on children. They need to pay attention to children to know if they are exceeding the number of hours they should use just playing video game, sitting down or on the couch or on a sofa. In this way, I am obviously explaining advantages and disadvantages. If I can give examples, if I can provide details, way better. What I'm doing in these videos is just something short explaining you the strategy you should follow, starting with the context, following with advantages, and finishing with disadvantages. And in this moment, it's super important to talk about the most common mistakes people make when facing this kind of question. The first mistake that people make is to talk about one advantage and one disadvantage. When you just talk about one advantage and one disadvantage, that's not enough. The question usually says, talk about the advantages and disadvantages, or talk about the pros and cons of a given topic. Plural. They never say talk about the advantage and the disadvantage. So it means we need to try to talk about advantages and disadvantages. If time is not enough, if we're not quick speakers, doesn't matter. We at least need to talk about 2 advantages and 1 disadvantage. Would it be enough? depending. If you are aiming at getting a B1, more than enough. If you're aiming at getting B2, like 55, could be possible to get a score of 55 with this type of strategy. Obviously, the best answer is that you talk about 2 advantages minimum and 2 disadvantages. Another common mistake answering this type of question is to talk about the advantages for 1 minute and 10 seconds, and later talk about the disadvantages just for the last 20 seconds. It's too little time compared to the other one. So the best answer and the best way of tackling this answer is by splitting the time, half time for advantages, half time for disadvantages. And the other super common mistake is to have a messy answer. People start talking about the good things, the negative things, the positive side, the negative side. At the end, it's not clear for the person who is evaluating where are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. It's like a mix of everything with examples, with reasons, with my opinion, with what people think, and then it's not a clear answer. So you need to have a structure, you need to have a strategy, and obviously be tight. Don't give a messy answer. But over here, it comes a common question. How do I know if my strategy, if my structure is well done? First suggestion, do not wait till the day of the exam to try it. You need to try it many times. You need to record your voice. You need to listen to your answers. You need to do lots of practice. For that reason, for people who join my program of the MET preparation course, we have a platform in which people have access for more than 100 questions, in which they control the time, they record their voice, and they can listen to themselves in order to know whether they are doing well or wrong. They can listen and say, oh, I did well this part, or no, I'm doing wrong this part. Probably they might find that they are doing repetition of words. Probably they might find that they are not clear enough, that even they don't understand themselves when they are speaking in English. Or probably, because it has happened, people do not speak loud. They speak very soft. And when they are recording, the microphone is not recording that much, and they need to make an extra effort to listen to themselves. And it must not happen in the exam. How do you know, or how can you learn if it is happening? By doing practice similar to the exam. You need to have time control. You need to have real-time questions. You need to have recording of your voice to know that your strategy is going in a right direction. For that reason, we have a software for our students, and they are able to practice. And obviously, they get feedback from experts in classes. So if you are willing to start a course, if you know that this is the exam you want to take, or probably even if you have questions, you can contact us. We are open to have you as our students. So just contact us. Our links are in the description. But obviously, don't miss the next video in which I explain a little bit more about our courses. See you in the next one. Bye bye.